Well, thank you for having me. This has taken, I mean, the Russian effort in Pokrovsk has been going on for well over a year and resulted in the expenditure of huge numbers of Russian casualties. And the Russian advance has been literally at a snail's pace. It has taken them eons to get where they've got to. Why are they so focused on it? Because it's there, because they've expended a huge amount of effort in doing so. And this is a classic case of, in a sense, reinforcing, rather than reinforcing maneuver success. It's a case of continuing to batter their head against a pretty substantial Ukrainian brick wall. And they will go on in a sort of wooden-headed way to do so until they've got it. And even then, once they've got it, what will it profit them? Frankly, not a great deal, except for a Pyrrhic victory and some smoking ruins.
But we also have a part of that. So we, the United States of America, have a part of that. You know, you look at the likes of somebody like Victoria Nuland, the Obama administration at that time, John Brennan, who were part and parcel to the decisions made during the Maidan Revolution, okay, that gave rise to Zelensky, the current president.
Well, hello, that's me again. Today is November 5th, 2025, and I want to address immediately the issue of camera. People really ask me reasonably, why are you so red, or what is happening with you? Nothing is happening with me. I'm just the same as I used to be for the last several years. The problem, of course, is some kind of interaction between Windows 11 on my one of my setups. I have three of them at home. And for some reason, this camera, I cannot remove this reddish hue, so I have to constantly play with all kinds of things which are like brightness and saturation, but I cannot even access the hue menu, and it's there, but you cannot click on that. It's just that, checkbox. So I don't know. Anyhow, you are here obviously not to look at my beautiful, stunning face. I'm being facetious, of course. So you are here to listen what I'm trying to say, and let's not put things anywhere further, so to speak. And you saw yourself what British think about this whole situation. Let's get to this whole situation, and I'm going to present to you the maps by Colonel Popov and Marat Khairulin. These are from 2 days ago, but they actually give you some understanding of what is going on. And as has been stated already last time when I was talking about it, actually in Pokrovsk agglomeration alone, there are around 10,000 of the armed forces of Ukraine trapped. And if we go and take a look at, for example, Pokrovsk map as presented by professional military people within their framework of what is allowed without going into any kind of the secret or classified information. And as you can see yourself, basically surrounding is absolutely complete, and all attempts, as you can see yourself, those blue things, they kind of show the attempts to deblocate or those trapped. We'll look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 brigades are there. And yeah, they're not going to be deblockaded, if you wish, or deblocked, and they will all die. Some of them are beginning to surrender now in fairly large numbers. And we can go further, and if you want to take a look at what is happening in Pokrovsk, again, inside, here's the inside Pokrovsk issue. As you can see yourself, there are several cauldrons there, which are being mopped up as we speak, and this is kind of detailed map. And so yeah, this is a done deal. Then we can go, and one of those, who would have known, this bunch of the Kagans, slaves who toil in the, at this pathetic, really so-called think tank, which pretend that they know something about the war. They don't, including those American generals who are on their board, including General King. But yeah, even in the Institute for Unlearning War, which is pretty much what they were doing, even on November 1, they already kind of admitted that, assessed control of terrain near Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, November 1st. Well, there you go. They already understood what is happening. And this bottleneck, as I already stated, and I showed it you last time, it's actually down to less than 1 kilometer. And if you take a look attentively at how they try to escape, this is the only escape route. I'm not going to be showing you their fate of this one of the groups which try to escape there, because it will be the further down the video it's killed, and it was pinned down by artillery fire. And this is just one of those, so to speak, representation of what is going on, because obviously all roads are completely blocked and you cannot deliver anything there. Then we can go to Kupyansk area. Kupyansk area is even more dramatic, as you can see yourself. Again, this is from I would say 3 days ago at least, because the maps have been drawn 2 days ago. So, and as I continuously repeat, it is they all lag behind the actual events by about 3 days probably. So, because most of those maps are created by the basically statements of the Russian Defense Ministry, so they are done by the professionals. So, as you can see yourself, the issue of Pokrovsk also completely decided. And again, let's count how many of those brigades there. There are 5 brigades there, so it's give and take another 7,000. So yeah, there is a lot of going on there. And as you can see yourself, if we're going and take a look at Armed Forces of Ukraine losses for today, there is, it's 1,500 roughly, give and take every day. It hovers around this number. And as you can see yourself, I highlighted it in yellow, that even by the most conservative, most, I don't know, stringent criteria in terms of counting the bodies, because most of the time the counting is not even completed when those numbers come up, even by Russian Defense Ministry. They already put those numbers at around 1.5 million, and most of those numbers which shown here, killed and wounded, they are killed primarily. And so by different estimates, so we're looking at 2 million plus KIAs alone by this point of time there. And as you saw yourself, I mean, these are British. They definitely have issues with basically facing the reality of their country being, well, you saw yourself in the media, in the video in the beginning. So, but they will continue to kind of cope and try to pretend things which are not there. But we'll talk about this. So now, after we discussed this issue, now let me show you the some remnants of those GUR groups, which you see, this is the raid, what is called the backpack. It's professional backpack, it's raid, so it's one of them. They just don't go far, evidently trying to save whatever the CIA assets are there. But the problem here, as many people already asked, and make no mistake, they have a basically justification asking this: where are those two Black Hawk helicopters shut down? Show us the video. Well, give it a time. Listen, and again, do not forget, not everything I say 100% is correct, but there is no doubt that you saw yourself what happened to those groups. And so once Russian Defense Ministry deems it necessary, it will present to us all those videos, and we will some will enjoy, others will butt hurt as usually, and will try to live in the alternative universe. But that's the issue. I'm not in charge here. I'm not privy to Russian Defense Ministry's press service. Service, which is headed by Lieutenant General Konashenkov. So, give it a time and we'll see everything we need to see and know. Things are more complex than you think. So, because there is another issue here, and Russians going to be playing with this data. Well, for example, communicating with the United States is, of course, that those Black Hawks, they haven't been piloted by Ukrainians. They have been piloted, obviously, by the American pilots, and who knows what happened to them. Okay, so this is a whole other story here, and do not forget, it is all about Russian-American relations and how Russians are, well, basically lost the patience with the United States and President Trump in providing those off-ramps and so the time to kind of tighten the vice and whatever they genitalia are in there. So this is a situation around the line of combat contact. And so before we go, obviously we have to keep in mind that yeah, it's a really legitimate issue which have been raised for years now, and yeah, if RT repeats it and say, in case you still doubt Ukraine's neo-Nazi problem, it's not a problem. Ukraine is neo-Nazi, and so when Third Reich imagery is prominent in the social media of the country's leader, you would think somebody would notice. And she says that Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky's recent tour of several units fighting in the Donbas featured a flurry of Nazi and Nazi-adjacent symbolism worn on the flags and shoulder patches of Ukrainian servicemen. None of it, of course, was picked up by Western media. I read my lips, I will repeat. Most people who work in Western media are war criminals. They are people who actually enabled propaganda, support, and provision, so to speak, for what is happening now in Ukraine, including actually the, well, what can I say, atrocities and, well, other things happening to Russian-speaking civilians. So, yeah, they are Nazi regime there, and if you take a look, for example, polls now begin to circulate this. As you know, whoever the, those wounded in the armed forces of Ukraine, if they are saved from the battlefield, they are really, sent to all kinds of the NATO countries to being treated for whatever the wounds they have, or maybe just being, disassembled for their organs for sale on the black market. But as you can see yourself, Ukrainian POW gets medical treatment. Okay, these are polls, and so they say that I don't know why they call him POW. Evidently, he is maybe he is in Poland or maybe whatever. Maybe it's Russian photo. But the point is, as you can see yourself, look at this guy. Yeah, you can see yourself. This is what modern Ukraine is, and this is what the European capitals and United States supports Nazis. So there you go. So they are their own. If anybody tells me that the guys from this, the incestual British aristocracy and top brass, so to speak, not support them, well, you saw yourself. This is all over the place. They support Nazis, period. Europeans support Nazis. And it's just that they lie to themselves, which is the total normal thing for what happened to the Western civilization today. And what can I say? Nazi is a Nazi, and you cannot hide this fact. Now, let's get to the more geopolitical thing. And when we go and everything kind of, gets into, how to say it, coalesces into this fundamental thing of what Mr. Jeffrey Sachs spoke about yesterday, Judge Napolitanos, and he was explaining why, for example, and Mr. Dick Cheney croaked and good riddance, let him rot in hell if hell existed. So now it's only his, neocon daughter who poisons their air around in the United States. But Jeffrey Sachs correctly states that war criminal Dick Cheney dead at 84. Why does the West hate Russia? Let me explain why the West hates Russia. We have been through this many times, and again, it's metaphysical. it's not just the fact that many in Europe, especially, they look at this, subhumans like me, Slavic, like Asiatic, what have you, sitting on the more than third of the natural resources in the world, but going against everything they know about Russia. But let me tell you, most of them they don't know much, or if anything else, they actually rather would be ignorant than just knowing what they think they know, because most of it is just absolute sheer propaganda. And whenever we speak about it, I mean, you will ask me, are there, for example, Russian specialists in CIA? No, there are none. Are there Russian specialists in Pentagon? No. I mean, most of those people, they have no clue, and as have been already stated for the last several my videos, that the intel which they get mostly is from all kinds of the sources which wouldn't be considered serious sources by any professional service level, some like intelligence services like CIA, but they drink this Kool-Aid. The only reason they drink it because they are not self-aware, they are pathetic, for example. So, and obviously then when they are shown different picture, they begin to hurt. They have this cognitive dissonance, because those Asiatic subhumans like Russians, they are supposed to actually disintegrate. They have to crawl back to all those dirty peace-ridden streets of Paris, or to Arab Brussels and African Brussels, and beg for buying some overpriced crap from the whatever the left is at the department stores. But they just don't understand. Russians are already living better than Europeans, and that gap will only grow now. And they still think that for some reason Russia has to collapse economically, and for some reason it doesn't, because everything they know, including about economics, for example, because every part of the humanities education in the combined West is the academic fraud. It's taught by primarily 90% of those professors are academic frauds, credentials morons with PhDs. And yes, as the result, we have the constant reproduction of cretins, and cretins with ambition, credentialed. And what can I say? It is what it is. I mean, I don't know how to explain it other than the sheer racism and sheer, arrogance. And that's what Mr. Sachs also says, that all about arrogance, speaking about this cretin Dick Cheney. Remember, he wanted also to split Russia, break it up. When you look at the so-called scholars, and they are not scholars, they never have been, like Henry Kissinger or Zbigniew Brzezinski, I mean, what do you expect? Those were propagandists, ideologues. They never knew anything about the world around them. As the result, the only thing they were doing was self-promotion. And because of the weight of the American culture at that time, including pop culture and media, especially in 70s and 80s and 90s, they were promoted as some kind of the thinkers. They're not. Look at the Council for Foreign Relations. They're a bunch of clowns. I'm sorry. It's pathetic. And that brings us apart from this whole situation. And obviously Mr. Trump saying that United States has the nuclear arsenal about 150 times to kill everything on Earth. Let's get first to these assessments. I will comment a little bit on the resumption of the nuclear testing, and United States is not gonna like what Russians are about to do. And Vladimir Putin already gave the order to prepare, and Mr. Belousov, defense minister, stated, yes, we're ready, and Novaya Zemlya will be used now as the range to test Russian nuclear weapons. So, but here it is. This is this is range, okay? And first, these people, they published this, Le Monde, or actually talked about it, just how important, they still think that they are that important, and Le Monde reported on that, oh my God, this incredible assessment. And look at this is assessment from a bunch of the so-called think tankers. And again, France, they don't have Russian specialists there, none, do not exist in any area related to power or shaping the whatever the assessments they do there. But look at this, they published this report yesterday. It's called Europe-Russia Assessment of the Balance of Power. As you might expect, none of those people who wrote it, and European officer who is a joke primarily. So they write that European countries can no longer avoid the Russian question because Russia has chosen war. No, not really, but they lie. This is what the problem with them. These people lie to themselves. They lie all their lives because obviously first, none of them has any kind of the background which allows them to actually provide proper assessments of the balance of power, and basically average military from any NATO country, they do not understand the issue of the correlation of forces and means simply because most of them are, they do not have proper educational background, and most of them will not be able to actually pass the entrance exam to Russian military academies, let alone stay and study there. But you know what? It is what it is. All those guys who go through all kinds of those 2-3 year, institutions which supposedly give them any kind of the military education, they are not giving them real military education, not for the 21st century. And so they begin to lie that Russia has chosen war. They have the necessary potential, the economic means, military skills, and technological know-how to have how to face Russia by 2030, provided that they show political will. There is no political will in Europe and doesn't exist for the last very many years because, Russians kicked Europe's butt big time in the World War II. And after that, if not for the United States, Europe would have been simply disintegrating into all kinds of the bizarre political movements. If the United States wouldn't step in, probably there would have been very many true left-wing parties like the hardcore socialists, if not outright communists, who would have won elections. But eventually, CIA, MI6, and all those guys, they actually played their role to make sure that nobody like this ever gets to power. And what is known today as the left wing in Europe are nothing more than neoliberal, sexual deviants and perverts and all kinds of the pedophiles, and that's type of this thing, which have nothing to do with the actual left wing and doesn't have anything to do with the real economy. It is all neoliberal finance type, legerdemain. And so as the result, when they speak that, Europe has to have the will, no, it doesn't. And it doesn't have resources. France, for example, it's a pathetic country which not going to exist beyond probably 2050. Some people say 2035. And as I already stated many times, if not for France's nuclear deterrent, its military is a joke. I mean, all this Foreign Legion, all those whatever remaining 200 Leclerc tanks, 92 Rafale, fighters, and all this. This is a midget, and economically they, most of it is, Bertrand Arnault overpriced crap, which is like Louis Vuitton and champagne, which is and so that's pretty much their economy. Obviously, French cars, which are notorious, let's put it this way, and of course, if not for Airbus and some ability to build some ships, that's it. There's nothing there. I mean, and so they are suffering now. They cannot, wrap their brains around the whole situation, what is happening with Russia and Europe. And as a result, these are French, remind you. Listen again, I'm not here to insult French nation, but French deserved it. They are what they are. So, and they elected this moron twice. So they, you know whom I'm talking about. And for some reason, they are suffering now. And this Macron dude has like 11% of the support. Guys, you decided it, so enjoy it. So now these so-called think tankers from France, which I already stated who they are, they said Russia has managed to maintain its macroeconomic position, but is now heading towards a very damaging stagnation in the medium term. Let me put it this way. As I already stated, economic education in the West primarily, and if you don't believe me, you can read essentially what Mr. Hudson, a world-renowned true economist, writes about it. It's a fraud. all of it, all those PhDs and, even Nobel Prize winners in economics, they are frauds. They do not understand how real economy operates. And going back to Mr. Jeffrey Sachs, he was the one actually who was the head of the developing of those so-called liberal reforms in 1990s in Russia, which led to, by different estimates, as the direct result of death of 5 to 8 million Russians. Mr. Jeffrey Sachs, to his greatest credit, he had epiphany, and he since then have been just, vocal critic of this whole, liberal economics, so to speak, thing about Russia. But he was correct, and he was, when he stated already in 1990s, we opened the patient, we cut it open, and then recognized that it has different anatomy. This is exactly what it is. Russia has different economic anatomy, which is beyond the comprehension of the majority of the French scholars, French generals, French what have you, analysts, all those intelligence people. And as I already stated, and I will continue to repeat it again and again, the issue of the strategic forecast and strategic intelligence, especially in Europe, it doesn't exist as craft. People of the scale of the mind, such as Colonel Jacques Beau or some other people I know from Germany and Switzerland, people which are brilliant people, they are not allowed anywhere into this echo chamber of the credentialed cretins with PhDs in history in Europe. And as the result, we know what is happening to Europe now. So now they talk about defense and security. So immediately I'm not taking any views of the NATO military seriously, or in any kind of the defense and security assessments, or even ideas, because most of them, they are amateurs, they are incompetent people, all of them. And so completely bogged down in Ukraine, really, I don't think so. But I mean, you cannot explain to these people who live completely on PR and completely on the fairy tales from the Nazi Kiev regime that they support Nazis, and Nazis are being utilized in the industrial quantities, and but yeah, they are nothing more than propagandists, cheap ones, Sorbonne. I mean, come on, you have to just basically, how to say it, dissolve all those institutions like Sorbonne, or for that matter Oxford in England, because their humanities departments, they provide nothing of value, as is, for example, Georgetown in United States. It's all pathetic, brainwashing institutions, degree mills essentially. And so they talk about that Russia is waging a war of attrition at the cost of considerable losses. Well, Russia certainly sustains losses, but they are not considerable when you consider actually the scale of the events unfolding, not only in Ukraine, but all around the world. So, and they talk about the policy systems and societal resilience. Decision making is concentrated by Vladimir Putin, whose current term of office runs until 2030. Enduring, Russian society has settled in for war, which, according to official disclosure, should encourage the emergence of new elites. Well, it's already encouraging the emergence of the new elites, and obviously, unlike French elites, which are shysters, thieves, perverts, and that's especially French intellectuals. So yeah, this is what is happening in Russia, and French, they are not even in the same universe. So they continue this coping and butthurt by producing all kinds of this non-essential pseudo-scholastic garbage, and but that tells you everything you need to know about those people. The only thing they understand is pain. Like this British dude, he cannot hide it. He's not very self-aware. He's not very bright. You would expect them not being very bright in the British aristocracy, and all kinds of those, the military people, who most of whom do not have real military background. They are all kinds of lawyers, political scientists, what have you. So, and they all are sirs, they're all, knights of British Empire. And the same goes for French. These guys think that they're so great. They're not. You're a stinky country. You know what? You're gonna be beaten into the Sharia all over the place. Your police are cowards. And so you see yourself what is happening there. And the only thing Europeans understand, and I know some people will be irked by this, but we are all economic animals. illegals. We all, me too. We live, we try to earn our living. We need to feed families. We need to have some kind of degree of comfort, which is, I mean, it's normal for anybody. But let me tell you, Europeans betrayed whatever they had as the great civilization of the last half millennium. They are mankurts. They are people who are walking stomachs. Simple as that. They don't have honor, they don't have integrity, and I'm talking about societies as a whole. And so the only thing they understand is economic pain. And how it is happening right now, for example, with this shutdown in the United States, and some of those obviously food stamps, they do not go to Americans, they go to all kinds of the illegals. But legal Americans, and many of them genuinely incapable to find the employment and need assistance, they're not getting their food stamps. This is atrocity towards those people. Granted, under the pretext that there are many illegals who get them. I agree, there are, which is absolutely incredible and wrong. So instead of Americans who were born here, they just live here, and they share American culture, they're not getting their food stamps now. And many of those people, they do need. They have families, they have children to feed them. Well, the same goes in Europe. So until they will begin to stand in the lines for the soup kitchens, they will not understand that nothing is going to happen there. And when you read those things, when you read all those assessments, if you want to waste your time, I already did it. It's just same crap by ignoramuses from Paris and all those French think tanks, which is essentially euphemism for being, suffering butthurt, losers, because France is a loser country. It has been on the losing end since the World War II. No honor, just surrendered to Germans because they supported Nazis. So, and that's what we have. And they will continue to produce this hot air, but you have to keep in mind that you have to stick, to them periodically, explaining that no, the more you do this, the closer those soup kitchens are becoming, coming to you. This whole thing about the new technologies or something like that. Europe doesn't have resources, neither does the United States, in terms of any kind of the real serious warfare, period. If United States doesn't have it, then certainly France or even combined Europe do not. They don't have it. They don't know how to fight a modern war. Their officer corps is primarily a joke. They don't understand basic tactical issues. The only thing they know is, of course, as many people already stated, oh, you talk about drones. Why didn't you talk about artillery? Well, I have news for you people. Artillery is being used, and especially in terms of the ROC, which is the Recon Fire Complex, constantly on the huge, large scale by Russian army. But people know only drones, and that's the only thing they want to, as any people who lack any professional understanding of the warfare, they grabbed onto one of the things which are obvious, like drones, and do not understand that even the Russian drones, which actually order of magnitude more effective than, Ukrainian drones, even those drones, they have the effectiveness of around 25%. Well, Ukrainian drones have the effectiveness of 2.5 to 4%. And what can I say? Think about this yourself. What else? What are the means of the fire impact? What are the long-range fires do in this war? And I can tell you immediately, the main casualties, the bulk of those casualties is happening not because of the drones, albeit drones play a very important role, make no mistake. It is the long-range fires and artillery which continue to basically annihilate the Nazi troops of Ukraine in the industrial quantities. And this is what I wanted to tell you today about all that. And before I go, I want to explain a little bit about the resumption of the nuclear testing, as I already stated. Here's Dmitry Medvedev. There are a bunch of people who get into my comments, primarily from all kinds of the organizations such as, Hasbara, all kinds of the fake Russian specialists. I spoke to Russian people, and they say, oh, they don't take him seriously. Oh, yes, they do take Dmitry Medvedev seriously. And he says that no one knows what Trump meant about nuclear testing. He probably doesn't himself. I agree with him. He doesn't. But he is the president of the United States, and the consequences of such words are inescapable. Russia will be forced to assess the expediency of conducting full-fledged nuclear tests itself. As I already stated, the order has been issued. The range on the Novaya Zemlya is ready, and let me put it this way. Russia leads United States in terms of the nuclear technology and nuclear weapons by couple of generations. So, well, Mr. Trump wanted to do this race, let him. So, this is what I had to say about everything today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on the Patreon or buy me a coffee and too. And have a nice rest of your week. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.